The topic for today is the influence of the spirits in our life. So I guess I want to start by asking if everybody here believes in spirits. Yes. Okay. There are people, I need this up, like this. There are people who actually don't believe in anything and who actually doubt everything. So if by chance there's somebody here that doesn't believe or does doubt, I just ask you that for 1 hour, be skeptical, but keep your minds open to the influence of the spirits upon us. So I want to start by establishing that we're all spirits, incarnate or discarnate, but we're all spirits, material or ethereal. So we are in constant relation. Oops, what happened? You're controlling. The spirits are controlling my slideshow. So we're in constant relationship with spirits, just as we're in constant relationship with each other, with our friends and with our families. So whether it be incarnate to incarnate or discarnate to incarnate, it doesn't matter the combination, but we are all in constant relationship with each other. So for this presentation, though, we're mostly going to concentrate on discarnate spirits influencing us, okay? Does anybody here know how spirits influence us? Thoughts? How do I do this? Do I just press? No. Thoughts. How do I use this?
Just the right-hand side.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was good. I'm going to give you a little overview of the lecture, just so you get an idea. I tried to be as simple as I could so people could understand what I was talking about. And I'm going to start with the universal cosmic fluid. That's simple, right, Susanna? All right. So the universal cosmic fluid, the field, basically is how we're all connected. And we need to understand that we are connected in order to communicate with each other. We're going to talk about the law of attraction, which we're all bound by the law of attraction, but the quality of our emotions and the quality of our thoughts is going to determine the affinity that we have with each other and with the spirits. Levels of energy. This is the only topic that I'm actually bringing in a little bit of a different material, but the importance of it is to understand our emotions and our intentions and where they are in our energy level, because that's how we attract influences into our life. Then we have the good news. We have good influences. These are going to be our guardian angels. They're going to be the good spirits, our protectors. We have special kinds of mediums, which are, we sometimes ask, why is it that some people receive, which seems to be higher information than we do, even though we're all mediums? The bad news. There are ill-intentioned spirits and there are frivolous spirits that are also trying to influence us. Our ability to choose, our responsibility to make the choice that takes us to a higher spiritual progression. And then we're going to actually raise the quality of our emotions today. You know me, I always bring in something with experience. Can't help myself. I thought it was really appropriate to begin with the Spirits book. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. Do spirits influence our thoughts and actions? Right? We already know they do. They often direct both our thoughts and actions. Their influence is greater than you think, for very frequently it is they who guide us. So this is an interesting proposition, because even though they can influence and guide us, they can never overstep the laws of nature. And so the Spirits book gives us a couple of examples that I really liked a lot. One of them is, if a man is determined to die in a certain way at a certain time, and he climbs a ladder, the ladder breaks, and he falls, did the spirits create the ladder to break? What do you think? Anybody think yes? No. However, the spirit does influence the man and puts the thought in his mind, there's a ladder, go climb it. He climbs the ladder, it breaks, he falls, and he has a natural death, or what appears to be a natural death. There's no miracle to this. The other example that I really liked a lot was the example of the lightning, because this is truly the law of nature. It's pouring rain, it's storming, it's lightning, it's thundering. The man is getting wet. He runs, he sees a tree, he runs under the tree to seek shelter. The lightning hits the tree. The guy dies. Did the spirits cause the lightning to strike the tree? Laws of nature. The lightning was going to strike the tree anyway, but they put the thought into the mind of the man to go under the tree. So when spirits influence us, it's really very subtle, and it's coming in through our intuition. Whether we pay attention to it or not is our own free will. Now, one thing that we notice is that how did the spirits know that the guy was going near a tree to go seek shelter? Well, spirits can see everything we do. A little bit of a scary thought. Thank God they do not care about everything we do, so they only focus on what is actually what they're interested in, okay? And they're also focused, a lot of times they're focused on things that we don't want them to know about, or we don't want anybody to know about. In fact, when I was younger, they used to tell me there's 4 different kinds of secrets. The secret that you just don't want anybody to know, the secret that you don't want your family and friends to know, the secret that you know there's something wrong but you don't want to know about it, and then the secret that is actually unconscious that's preventing you from enlightenment per se. So our spirits can actually see our thoughts, know what we're doing, know what we're thinking, know our intentions. And in a lecture of Givaldo Franco, he'd said, don't do anything behind closed doors that you wouldn't do in public, because you're always in the company of spirits. So think about that next time you have a bad thought or a thought to harm somebody. Now, there are different kinds of spirits, but most spirits, again, even though they do know what we're doing, most spirits want to help us. Most spirits want us to improve. They're not really, but of course there are spirits that cause disturbances, like we talked about, the frivolous spirits and the ill-intentioned spirits, and we're going to talk a little bit more about them later. Now, one thing that I thought was really interesting is that what happens when I have 2 different thoughts at almost the same time? So let's say I'm an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic. I'm walking down the street and I see this bar and there's a lot of noise and there's music and there's fun and I see people drinking, and my first thought is, keep on walking, keep on walking. The second thought is, what the heck, one drink. Go in, have a drink. So which thought is my thought and which thought is the influence of the spirits? Normally, the first thought is your thought. The second one is a thought of influence that's coming from the outside. But that doesn't matter. What matters is once to become aware of the 2 thoughts and choose which thought is the one that's going to take you towards the law of love, which is the thought that is morally, intellectually, ethically acceptable. So again, we can make the choices that we want, but it is our responsibility to be aware of our tendencies. Now I'm coming to the subject that we all have a little bit of a hard time with. Genesis tells us that all matter comes from the universal cosmic fluid. All incarnate and discarnate beings are immersed in the universal cosmic fluid which occupies space, as we on Earth are immersed in atmosphere. Now, when I think of the universal cosmic fluid, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think of the field. I think of the divine matrix. This is what is keeping us together. This is how we're connected and we're communicating. The other thing was that I didn't really quite understand what the word fluids are. I'm not that smart, so I had to look it up. And basically the definition was that fluids are energies that give rise to all frequencies: heat, electricity, magnetism, and matter. So basically this is how we are being connected, and then perhaps more that we don't know about. But we do know that for sure. And so we are, how do we influence this universal cosmic fluid? It's through our thoughts. Exactly. So our thoughts, either incarnate or discarnate thoughts, are creating an imprint in this field. So every single thought we have is here, is somewhere up here. So we really don't have the luxury of having a negative thought, do we? This is really something that we need to consider. We're creating new thoughts all the time. And we have our individual signatures, just as we have our global consciousness signatures, but everything is out there in this cosmic fluid. Now, I just want to reiterate, the cosmic fluid reacts to our intentions and thoughts that go through it. Okay, so our thoughts are going through this field, through this space, just like sound travels through air. So I brought a prop. And you hear how the sound vibrates and how it's traveling through this room. But there will come a moment, like right now when I put it down, that the sound ends. And that's the basic difference between our thoughts and sound. The sound actually has a finite space, this traveling distance, where our thoughts are infinite. There is no, they go on forever. So this is really how, think about it. Now our thought is in this cosmic fluid, in this field, and we are now sending a thought to somebody else because we know that we can. And what happens is that we create this band of energy. So if I'm sending it my thought and my prayers and my hope for Maria Amelia to have a wonderful life, we create this current, this transfer of energy between the two of us. And what determines how powerful this current is the power, our intention, our desire. That's what's creating this current, this bandwidth, this huge internet bandwidth is how we're communicating. So this is how spirits actually know when we're directing a prayer to them. So when we have sincere prayers that it's coming from our heart, this bandwidth is powerful and it's going straight to them. But it's also how we can do long distance healing, because when we focus our prayer towards an incarnate, it also works, okay? It's also helping. And last but not least, this is how we can create telepathic communication between ourselves. So I'm sure everybody in this room has had a time when it says, you think about your mom and ring, the phone rings and it's mom. So we all have those moments where we're actually picking up the thoughts of somebody else. So back to the law of attraction and affinity. Energy attracts energy. Love attracts love. Hate attracts hate. So we are all bound by the law of attraction, but not just by the law of attraction. We're bound by the affinity that we have. So we need to be careful, because when our frequency is very low, our energy levels are very low, we not only have an affinity with that same frequency and vibration, but we actually start to attract that vibration into our lives. So basically what we're doing is we're tuning in to somebody's, we're tuning into the frequency that we have with everybody else, with the spirits and with everybody else around us. So what allows us to pick up on the thoughts that are directed towards us is our affinity with the spirit that created them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the qualities of our emotions, because I think it's important. But truly, spirits have different moral and intellectual qualities, and spirits are all around us. They're just sort of waiting to see who's receptive to their moral and intellectual qualities, just as we do. We tend to seek out people who have the same moral qualities that we do. I mean, I don't think any of us here are going to go out and have a friend who is completely different and morally deprived. It's not that they're bad, they're in their own learning process. It's just that we don't have affinity with them. So there is moral, ethical, and intellectual affinity that's always being taken into consideration. And our moral nature, so it's going to be our thoughts, desires, attitudes, tendencies, and behaviors are going to be what attract us and what affinity we have. So the example that's used a lot, and I'm going to use it again, is the example of a radio station. So if I like country music and I listen to 102.5 hertz, hertz. It's a frequency, right? Because everything is carrying a frequency. Remember, go back to our fluids. Our fluids are energy that gives rise to electricity, magnetism, matter, and heat. So we go back to the frequency. If I'm listening to a country music station, can I listen to another station at the same time? It's physically impossible for me to do. I can't do it. If Carlos is listening to rock and roll, which is his favorite, he taught me about the Dave Clark 5, he will tune into a different radio station, and he cannot listen to any other station. So we're now in frequency, in vibration with these two different types of musics. But we have the free will to change. We can change anytime we want, okay? So again, most spirits want to help us. Most spirits are looking to influence us in a positive way, but we have to be careful with negative influences. We have to be constantly aware and recognize when our frequency and our vibration is low, because we're opening that door for lower spirits to influence us. We good so far? Haven't confused you?
No.
All right, so this is the one book that I am bringing into this lecture that's really not from a Spiritist book. This is a scale of emotions. It's the qualities of our emotions and in our consciousness. And this is not new, by the way. The Hindus have a scale. The Theosophists have a scale. The most common scale is the one that's from a book called Power and Force by David Hawkins. But I like Frederick E. Dodson. I think I just like him. So I brought him into for you guys to understand. What he tries to tell us with this chart here is that we want to be at about 200 and above in order to be influenced by good spirits, okay? When we are under 200, we are actually attracting the frivolous spirits. We're attracting the ill-intentioned spirits, okay? The low-level energy, which is going to be from about 180 down, is going to be the low-level energy. And what that does is that we have less energy available to us. We have distorted perceptions. So everything that we're seeing, we may see, or somebody may tell you, you look lovely, and they'll think, you hate my dress, right? Because our perceptions are distorted when we're in a lower level energy. I don't want to say bad, I don't like the word bad, but lower level energy. However, with that, taking that into consideration, I'm going to give you an example because emotions are not good or bad. I've been talking about quality of emotions, but guess what? Sometimes you can be angry, and angry can be a good emotion. Why? Because if I'm in an abused relationship and my husband is beating me, I'm going to feel shame. I'm going to be humiliated. I'm going to be scared, right? I'm going to be in those lower levels, 20, 30 lower levels. And people will tell you, get out of the relationship. What's wrong with you? You can't. Because you are stuck in that low level. Remember, you don't have the energy to get out of it. So until you get angry, that you say, I'm not taking this one more day, I'm out of here, and then you pick up your bags and you leave, you need to get angry. Because anger, you can see, is way up there in the scale. Okay? So emotions are not necessarily good or bad. It depends where we are in our level of consciousness. On the other hand, if I'm at 275 and I have courage and I'm living a good life, and suddenly somebody pulls up in front of me and I go completely hysterical crazy, I get angry, I actually go down. So this is where the responsibility comes when we have more choices. The more choices we have, the more responsible we are to make good choices. Okay? Another thing that I wanted to mention from here, well, in the Spirits book, they tell us that the obstacles in our plans, the things that bring us down to these lower levels, are actually attributed usually to our own poor decisions. Okay? So it is our decisions and our choices. I wanted to also, though, bring in another example of how I brought this in because this is not linear. It's not like we're in a linear. We're going around, we're jumping around in these emotions all the time. It's when we become obsessed with an emotion that we actually lower our level of vibration. So don't be afraid to get angry. Don't be afraid to do crazy stuff every once in a while. It's a learning experience. Learn from it. Move back up. But one example that I have is, let's say your house burns down, like all the homes burnt down in California, which was a terrible, terrible tragedy. And you listen to the interviews, and everybody is giving you a different emotional reaction, right? You don't usually get two people that are giving you the same reaction. Well, somebody who's at level 0 to about 180 is going to say, that's it, my life is over, I'm the most unlucky person in the world, I'm done. The person who's at level 180 to 450 is going to say, well, that was really bad luck, but oh well, I'm going to just pick up, move forward, and see what life has to do with me. Which, by the way, in the California fires, if you notice, that was the reaction of most of the people. We're going to stand up and we're going to rebuild. So that kind of gives us an idea of where that population in general is, not individual people, but the population in general is. And then if you're above 475, you're going to say, well, this is just fantastic. You know, this is just, there's got to be something much better waiting for me than this. So we can see how important it is to become aware of our emotions. Now I have the good news. So I have a friend, John. I get messages from him and he goes, hello, Sandra. I have good news and I have bad news. Which would you like first? And I always tell him, the good news, John, the good news. So I'm starting with the good news, all right? The good news is that most good spirits empathize with us and they really want us to improve. All right, so besides wanting us to improve as individuals, they also want us to improve as a humanity in general. So when you see that we have like these amazing world peace rallies or peace treaties, you see that we have these incredible scientific discoveries out there that you think, wow, these men are just brilliant. It's most of the time, these men are actually under the influence and collaboration of spirits who are helping them to who are helping them to get these inspirations. Now, there are geniuses, for example, that we think, like Albert Einstein. He had the capability to understand the theory of relativity. He was worthy and he had the capability of understanding. Imagine well, maybe there are some of us in here, I don't know. But imagine if I received inspiration with a bunch of mathematical equations. I would go, oh, yeah, this is really great. You know? So the spirits know who to influence and how to influence them for the better of yourself and for the better of humanity in general. So how do spirits actually influence us? And by the way, we all have one spirit that is like our guardian angel, or we can call it a spirit protector, but a little higher, that are higher, of a higher elevation, who are stay with us from the time we're born through the time that we die in each incarnation. So that's really good news, because they're all here right now with us. Imagine that we're constantly being protected just like a parent protects their child. Okay? So, but how is it that these guardian angels help us? Any ideas? Anybody? They offer us good advice, right? They're whispering in our ear, hoping that we hear the good advice. Just like our parents always try to give us good advice. And sometimes we listen and sometimes we don't, right? They warn us of potential danger, right? They console us in our afflictions. How many times have we sat there in times of sadness and times of grief that we've just prayed and prayed and said, please help me. And then somehow you just feel at peace. That's your guardian angel. They rejoice with us in our successes, which I love, because as a parent, I know that I've been trying to teach and guide my children, and they're like, one is already in their 40s. But they're still kids to me, and I'm still trying to guide them. I'm still trying to help them. I'm still, giving them advice. And I rejoice in their successes. And I just think it's so amazing that our guardian, or the good spirits and our guardian angels, are also rejoicing in our successes and in our moral evolution. They encourage us to have strength. I ask for this one a lot. This happens to be one of mine because sometimes I just feel I'm really not as strong as I look. I'm just really not. It's like I don't know why people think I'm strong. But obviously they're helping me a lot because I always seem to somehow make it through. They help us to persevere, to undergo our trials. This is a big one because we go back to the levels of energy, and when your house burns down, that is a huge trial. It's huge. I don't care who you are. And I'm not sure anybody in this room is spiritually enough to say, oh, this is fantastic. It's not fantastic. What can I say? So this is a time when really it's nice to know that we can call upon our guardian angel. And some of us have a hard time. We don't want to call her a guardian angel. We don't have a word. We just have a way to communicate. Give them a name. Emma. Please help me. Because our guardian angels, as long as we're sincere, will always come to our rescue. They're always there to help us. Sometimes they don't help us the way that we think, because sometimes we want it to be a little like phenomenal. When we, an experience that, oh yeah, okay, great, the flowers moved to the other table, she's here. It's probably not going to happen. But they're constantly coming through our intuition. So besides our guardian angels, we're surrounded by sympathetic spirits and protective spirits, which you were talking about. So we are lucky. We're constantly being protected. Oops. I'm going to go back to those special mediums because sometimes it just seems so unfair that people get better messages than I do. It's like, why can't I write a book? Why am I not this enlightened person? Well, we are all mediums, but there are some mediums, again, because they're worthy of understanding the information or capable of understanding the information, do have, I don't know if they're called talents. I wouldn't call it a talent. They have skills that we don't have. And these would include special kinds of mediums. So these are a few: hearing mediums, speaking mediums, inspired mediums. I'm going to talk a little bit about Florencio Antón because he is a painting medium. So I'm going to talk about him in a minute. But this again is where we come into somebody like Einstein. So he was a medium too. He was receiving information from the spirits that led him to the theory of relativity. Now sometimes we have a 5-year-old child that's a classical pianist. How does that happen? Is a spirit influencing him there? Well, it is probably coming from a past life, I would have to say, and he's bringing it in. So, there are different kinds of mediumship. Now, like I said, sometimes we want the spirits, even sometimes in a mediumistic group, sometimes in groups when we get together, people always want some sort of phenomenon. Okay, like as if the spirits had a little magic wand that went poof, 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 I'm going to fix all of your problems and I'm going to create a white rose now in the middle of the room. We have to get past that because really the way that spirits influence us is subtle. It's really subtle because they have to give us the opportunity to choose to listen or not to listen, so that when we do listen, it appears very natural that it was our decision, it was our choice. It wasn't imposed upon us by anybody. Okay? And particularly by some sort of, if you're believing something just because of a phenomena, then, you may be disappointed because you're missing the best part of it, and that's that we are constantly being helped. Now, there's three reasons. Actually, on Wednesday, I was talking to our group, and I was like, I need an example, and I'm thinking this. I'm not saying it out loud, and my friend Ricardo tells me a story, and I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly how we're influenced. So because the spirits, what they do is they try to guide us to do the right thing, correct? So check this out, if this isn't a reality check. Ricardo is an Uber driver, and he's okay with it. He's testing his patience a little bit, but he's doing this. He's done this for 2 years. He drops off his client. He looks to the side. There's 3 hotels with these brand new transport vans, and something, who do we think it was, says, you're going to get a job. You need to go there. There's a job there for you. So at this moment, this is the spirit now saying, giving him little intuition. There's no sign that says hiring. There's nothing there. There's no reason for him to believe there is a job for him there. In fact, he's not even looking for a job. He has a job. But he decides, he could have just driven by, but he decides, I'm going to go to the hotel. Lo and behold, they take him straight to the transportation director. They ask him they instantly have affinity. My gosh. The director of transportation just happened to be there the day that he went. They met. They instantly had affinity. 3 days later, Ricardo has the job. And he's happily ever after. So I just thought that was a great story, because that is really what spirits are constantly trying to do. They're constantly trying to, and how subtle was that? He wasn't forced. Nobody was saying, hey, Ricardo, go over there. So now I'm going to go to Florencio, because I loved his story. Florencio was born in 1993, so he's pretty much this generation, in a town in Bahia. And since he was very young, he had contact with spirits. But the spirits, they were not always great contacts, okay? Because it is scary when you don't know what's happening. And by the time, he did have, though, spirits that were helping him, of course, to get through all of this. And by the time he's 14, he's guided to go to a spiritist group. And in the spiritist group, he actually becomes familiarized with Kardec, with the teachings of Allan Kardec, with Leon Denis, with Emmanuel, just with a lot of the people from the spiritist literature. And his mediumship skills just explode. His psychography, his clairvoyance, his psychophony, all just he really develops them really quite quickly. Now, this man had never had any experience, any kind of artistic experience. He was not a drawer. He was not a painter. He did none of this. But one day in 1990, December 21st, the only reason I remember the date is because it's my sister's birthday. But on December 21st of 1990, the spirits, he was being also helped from people in the spiritist group who were guiding him. But the spirits guide him to put a piece of poster paper and paints, drawing pencils. And that is the day that he does his first painting, his first drawing. So to make a long story short, this man now, that's what he dedicates his life to. He is painting. But he paints with his eyes closed. He can paint a painting, depending on the theme and the size of the painting, in 3 to 20 minutes. He can paint with both hands at the same time. We're talking paintings like this. He paints in the dark. So, the talent is, he's being guided, he's being helped. The talent is there. Somebody is helping him do all this. Now, the beauty of all of it is that his he sells these paintings, but he doesn't keep 1 cent from the paintings. He actually has an organization for children with psychological problems, which of course I would imagine, and I don't know his story completely, but I would imagine that that was the problem with him, you know, psychological problems with the influence of spirits. The bad news. You know, one day I want John to tell me there's good news and there's good news. Which one do you want first? But no, there's bad news too. So, as I said before, we have frivolous spirits. Frivolous spirits are those really, really annoying spirits. They just really they're mischievous. They're just really tempting our patience, okay? And they laugh at us because we are impatient. And we do react to it. So these are spirits that when we open that door to irritability and to all of that, they're there. They just love it, okay? The ill-intentioned spirits or the unenlightened spirits, on the other hand, we have to be a little bit more careful with, because when we open that door of negativity, when we open those low levels of energy, they're there also. And they're ready to instigate anger, jealousy, self-destructive behavior, judgment, pessimism, gossip, criticism, everything that we can imagine. They're tempting us to react to all of these low-level negative energies, okay? Which, of course, I mean, just by looking at those pictures, you can see they're not happy campers. So they're always tempting us, and they're allowed to tempt us because truly we are here to progress. We're here to evolve. That's our mission. It doesn't matter what happens to us. It matters how we behave after it happens. Are we making the right choices that are taking us to our spiritual progression or not? It's up to us. And there's 3 reasons why ill-intentioned spirits actually influence us. One is just general malice. They're just generally bad. Another end is that perhaps they're living vicariously through us. So going back to the alcoholic, maybe somebody died and his spirit now likes it when he finds an incarnate who is an alcoholic and who's drinking and who's smoking. And so he is attracted. They have affinity, and he wants to live vicariously through this person. So he's going to be the ill-intentioned spirit that tempts you to go into that bar to have that one drink, which turns into 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? And then we have the ill-intentioned spirit who may have some sort of resentment from a previous lifetime, from a previous incarnation, that perhaps you stole my wife, and you know I hate you, and I'm going to get back at you, and I'm going to tempt you, and I'm going to do everything you can so that you do something now to lose your wife. So those are the 3 reasons why we have normally why ill-intentioned spirits try to influence us. But thank God we have free will. At the end of the day, it's always our choice, always. Undeniably, okay? I like these little cartoons because it's God's deciding, I'm going to put free will in humanity, right? It didn't go so well if you look at the little globe. And the little angel goes, hey, don't look at me, I was against free will. You know, controlling everybody would have been a lot better than that. So, again, we need to use our conscious and our knowledge when we make choices. And we need to try to become aware of the choices that we make and of what's showing up in our life. So I'm going to cut it a little bit because I'm getting close to my time here. So now I know that you guys know the answers to these, so just at least tell me one. How can we raise our vibration and our frequency? Right. You guys are so good. Look at the first one. Prayer. So but they must be sincere prayers, because we're told that if we're just doing something out of habit or we're doing something out of obligation, well, it's not that it's bad, because prayer is always good. But you don't have that same bandwidth that we talked about earlier. And that's what we're trying to do, create the powerful bandwidth so that we can communicate and get help. So another one is meditation. We can meditate in different ways. There's guided meditation, there's silent meditation, there's music meditation. Anytime that we can lower our crazy monkey minds, we go into a state of inner peace. So meditation is good. Reading an enlightening book. Well, we know from last week that Andrea told us the Spiritist organization has a lot of very enlightening books. So please look at them when you're way out. Spend time in nature. It's always great to be out in nature. I mean, I know when I go out in nature, I feel revitalized when I come back inside. So it's just, watch a sunset, go to the ocean. Laugh, have a sense of humor. Laughing actually brings up your vibration. I mean, it feels good. They have laughing therapy to cure cancer. That's how good laughter is. That's how much energy you get from it. Chant, sing, dance, whatever it is that you like to do. I like them all, but I can't get my husband to take me dancing. Exercise, yoga, swimming, all things that we do that take our minds off of the everyday's trivial things. Charity, service. Whenever we help somebody else, we feel fantastic. Think about I put there the help the children of the third world regions, because when we have earthquakes that we see that are so devastating, tsunamis, it feels so good to help these people. Discipline, discipline, discipline. This was something that was taught to me right in the very beginning of the Spiritist Center, Susanna. When we have discipline and we learn a skill that requires intense concentration, we go into a different space, and I'll tell you something, you are being influenced by the good spirits like you cannot imagine. It's like you just sit down and where did I get that idea from? They just come one after the other. Self-control and awareness. When you become aware that your vibrational level is lower, that's a moment where you can take a deep breath and go, okay. So just awareness will bring your vibration up. And then last but not least is to be flexible. Being flexible raises our vibration, because if we're rigid, and it has to be my way or the highway, guess what? You're tense. Your vibration is low. You're attracting very difficult influences around you. So we're going to actually raise our vibration, okay? And I was going to allow everybody to have their own intention, but I decided that after I read the gospel, I decided no, we're going to do a group intention, and the intention is going to be to heal humanity. And the reason is because prayer in a group is more powerful when all of those who pray are joined by the same heartfelt thought and have the same purpose, because it is as if they all speak in one voice and in unison. And I just thought that was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I'm going to give you the instructions. We're not going to do this yet. I'm just going to give you the instructions, and then we're going to do it together. So we have the intention. We want to focus, everybody focus on healing humanity. We're going to I'm going to demonstrate. I learned by experience, so we're going to touch our hearts with our hands, okay? And then we're going to breathe in with a count of 5, 3 times. We're going to go, okay, 3 times. You don't have to use your hands. I'm just doing it to demonstrate. If you want to use your hands, you can, but you don't need to. Then if you're comfortable, and please, if you're not comfortable or you don't want to, certainly don't do it. But if you're comfortable, hold hands with the person next to you, because we're trying to create an energetic bond. But we're going to create it even if we don't hold hands, okay? And then we're going to watch the video, and the video is a 4-minute video, and it was created for middle school children. It was created for middle school children to learn what the definition of compassion is. And we know that compassion is way up there in the high energy level, okay? So when we're done watching the video, we are going to release our hands if we're holding them. And we're just going to pause for a moment. And I just want you to grasp the feeling, okay? And see if you have felt any kind of a shift. Okay, it moves our energies from our head into our heart center. And we're going to breathe 3 times. So we're going to Now, if you feel comfortable, hold hands with the person next to you.
Oh, no. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, no one can feel those of your needs that you won't let show. So just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. It won't be long till I wanna need somebody to lean on. Just lean on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. That's my problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me. There is a load you have to bear that you can carry. I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Call me. When you need a friend. Call me. When you need a friend. If you need a friend, call me. It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on, lean on, lean on, lean on me. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Somebody to lean on.
So let's join in a short prayer, feeling all the compassion we have.